Hello, my name is Bailey, and this is a short video on iteration. Iteration is just repeating a process over and over again. For example, if you've done a set of math problems before, you've done iteration. In this case, you're repeating the process of solving an individual problem over and over again to all the problems you have to do until you've completed every single problem. And this idea of doing something to a lot of things is present everywhere, even like sorting through apples at the grocery store. And in programming, we use iteration to execute certain blocks of code multiple times. And why do we have to do this? It's because we need to process a lot of data. Statistical analyses, we have to process CSV files like this. Training data for AI needs a lot of data from the internet to learn. Storing user information at websites. If you've ever created an account on YouTube, your data is added to a huge list of user information. And what's in common with all of these is that we have to use iteration to process these in the form of for loops or while loops. For loops is what I'm going to be covering in this video, while loops I'll leave for later. As a quick rebriefer, element access. To access an individual element in an array, we put the name of the array, square brackets, and in the middle, we put a number representing the index of the element we want to access. In this case, we want to access the first element, which is 1, so we put in 0, because remember, arrays start from 0, not 1. Here's a new syntax, for loops. We put the special keyword for, parentheses, and 3 statements in the middle. First statement is initializes a counter variable. Very commonly, it will be int I is equal to 0, but it could actually be basically whatever you want. Next is the loop condition, probably the most important. It's a condition that, as long as this condition is true, whatever is in between this curly brackets will be repeated. In this case, I is less than 10, so as long as the counter variable I is less than 10, this loop will keep running. Finally, counter incrementation, also very important. This counter variable needs to keep changing so that this loop won't run forever. As it stands now, since it starts at 0, this loop will run, but eventually it needs to come to a point where I is not less than 10 so that the loop will stop. And if you run this code, this will just print out every index I will be at, or every value I will be at, and that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now it's time for the example. Here I've got the lyrics to Island in the Sun by Weezer, if you've ever heard of it, and we want to print these out. Your first thought might just be to do this. That's not really helpful. If you're curious what this string of characters are, it's just the object identity, but that's not important to consider. Now, your next thought might be to do this. Access each individual element in the array. Now, you're on the right track here. You got the first 2 lines to the chorus, but unfortunately, this only works if the list is kind of short. And if this list were like billions of lines long, or even if it was just the entire song, it would be really inefficient to do this. But you're on the right track with this element access though. Now the solution is to use a while loop. In this case, we want I to represent every single index in this array. So we start at 0, which is always going to be the first element. And we want this to run until the end, access every single element. To do this, we could see that there are 5 lines, or 4 lines, I think. Now, the problem is if this was really long, we can't just count it using our eyes. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to use a special variable called a special property of this list called .length, which will just give us a number of elements in the array. I++ increment it, remember, and we're going to do the same thing as we did before, but instead of putting like a number like 0 or 1, we're just going to put in the variable I, because we know that I will represent every possible index in this array. Now we run it, we have all the lyrics. Perfect. Anyways, thank you.